I guess we're live. Great. Okay. Today we're going to talk. Well, this is daily news. So today is November 5th, 2019. And I have a couple of things that are on the news board for today that I think are important and that I want to look at when I'm 100 years old. So obviously, Trump impeachment is still on the board. And I don't know. I had predicted before in a previous video that nothing was going to happen with this. But as news gets more as more information comes in and more people get involved, it may happen. But what I actually read was that even if Trump is impeached, he can actually run for a re-election. So another prediction could be that if Trump is impeached, then essentially what will happen is he'll be impeached at the end of his term, which I don't think he cares about. So they'll drag this out until the end of his term and probably impeach him at the end of his term. And then he'll run for re-election. His people will be up in arms about the fact that he was impeached, and they will all rally together to ensure that he gets reelected, as they are um, feeling feverishly interested in making sure that uh, he gets reelected. So that last statement didn't make any sense, but anyway. So in news today, Emma Watson, the chick from the girl from Harry Potter, says that she is what she calls single partnered. She's about to turn 30 years old, and she didn't understand when she was younger why people made such a big deal about turning 30 and getting older and getting all your priorities straight. And now that she's about to turn 30, she said at one point she was freaking out because she felt like she needed to be stable at this point in her life. And stable meaning that she needed to have, uh, you know, be in a stable relationship, have a stable job, and all the other boxes that you have to check at that particular point in her life. And she found in your life, and she found that she became so stressed out about it that she decided to uh, get rid of all of those ideas about what it was to turn 30 and what the expectations are. And that's it about her. She just created some new term. I can't call it. I call it being self-partnered. So welcome in a new term to 2019, self-partnered, which I guess is fine. People don't want to be referred to as single woman. The Chargers owner Dean Spanos emphatically denies the team is interested in relocating. He actually put out a statement. He said, "I just want to give you a quote from me, okay?" He began launching into his expletive laden comment. This or it's total BS bullshit, okay? We're not going to London. We're not going anywhere. We're playing in Los Angeles. This is our home. And this is where we're planning to be for a long time, period. Okay, if you want to say it to me again, I'll say it. If you want me to say it again, I'll say it again. Bullshit that story. Okay, thank you. So I guess the Chargers are sticking around, which is cool. I don't know if they're finished with that stadium. I was there dropping off my daughter at a concert for Harry Styles. So whenever Harry Styles was here, I suppose it was sometime last year, around this time of year, because I think it was starting to get chilly. What was that? I just saw somebody that I knew on the internet. That's weird. No, that page is closed down. Okay, so this is the craziest story for today. Sad, terrible. There was an ambush, a Mexican ambush. A group of people were ambushed while driving in a town in Mexico that's about 80 miles south of the U.S. border. Three cars in what they called I think they called it a motorcade. So, um, first of all, when you're reporting on a story like that, so when my friends and I we go out driving somewhere, and we are, let's say, there's a group of I don't know, 8 of us or 6 of us couples, and we're driving in cars together. And what I mean by together, let's say we all decide to go to a restaurant. I think you have to look at the way the stories are written to kind of gather the truth of the story. Read in between the lines. What I'm getting at is I don't refer to uh, w- friends of ours, us driving to a restaurant. Let's say we're all following each other. I don't refer to it as a motorcade, but maybe as a writer, a journalist, a reporter who's educated in the arts of journalism and communication. Maybe the definition of motorcade defines exactly what they were doing, and maybe I'm just off. But I think it sounds a little bit weird that they referred to what they were doing as a motorcade. It sounds like they were driving. When you say motorcade, it sounds like they were in a formation and driving with some modicum of protection and an idea about why they were, or a reason for why they were in, like a reason bigger than just going from one place to the other. It consisted of several families, and I think 9 people died. 6 of them were children, so I think the 3 women that were driving were obviously killed. One of the cars was set on fire. Original report that I read actually said that the amount of shooting that took place was so extreme that one of the cars exploded. But that later on, I think, is not true. So you just have to watch where you get your news sources from, or where you get your information from. So this is a very sad story. These particular communities existed or exist in Mexico because the Mormons were frowned upon in America. I think I think they said like 60 years ago or something. And so, in order to be able to practice their religion in freedom or with freedom, they all, well, a large Mormon community decided to move to Mexico, and I can't remember the name of the city. So, this particular group was ambushed, and the women driving were killed, children were killed, and then there were 8 survivors, 8 children that survived, and they were left on the side of the road. And I read that one of the 13-year-old kids walked 14 miles to where their enclave is, and essentially summoned help after she hid her um, relatives, friends, other children that were with her in the bushes. And in addition to this, this happened. So she walked 14 miles at night. Was later, I could be mixing this up a little bit, but she was somehow found by a search team afterwards. So that's a terrible story. My personal thoughts on it are that I don't know, it just sounds weird to me. First of all, okay, so first of all, to live in Mexico, from the stories that I hear or that we hear of the things that are happening in Mexico on a daily basis, and maybe not in this particular area, because apparently, well, all over the world is very similar to the United States. There are places very similar to the United States in countries where, like for instance, there are places in the United States that you cannot go and should not go at night because you may not make it out alive. So those are facts about the United States, and those are same sort of situations that take place in sorry, I wasn't recording the audio for this. It's too bad. Those are those are the same sort of things that take place in um, other countries as well. So anyway, this was a terrible uh, situation down in Mexico. And what I was going to say about Audio Engine when it's not able to process all the required data in time. Okay. So what does that mean? What about now? Is that good? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, where's the other screen? Okay, so what's fishy about it to me? First of all, going back to how dangerous it is in Mexico. So there are certain places in Mexico you can't go, whether it's daytime or nighttime, but definitely not at night. So they're driving at night, which doesn't sound safe, even if it was only 80 miles. Sounds very dangerous. There are places in the United States that you shouldn't drive at night, but most places in the United States you can drive at night. Um, I would imagine, from what I have experienced with Mormons, with Mormon people that I have met. I shouldn't say with Mormons. That's not appropriate. Mormon people that I have met throughout the years is that there are probably some significant operational procedures that take place in living in a community that is primarily of consisted of people that are Mormon. There must be some uh, rules and practices that have to take place in order to live in that sort of place. Now, also, if you live in a place where the cartel can essentially at will let themselves out of jail. Also, if you remember the story a couple of weeks ago of, I think it was Chapo's son or brother or somebody who was caught by the police in a particular city. I think that was in Mexico. I think it was in Sinaloa, which is has bunch of it seems to be like a community of, well, it seems to be a community of drug dealers. However, I do know people that are from Sinaloa that are not drug dealers, and also that go back and forth to Sinaloa all the time, and they have no issues. So, much like I said earlier, it seems like you are able to travel through and from places. Or to and from places in Mexico without any issue. But Mormons in Mexico living in their own community, there's a community that I experienced that is primarily Mormons, and it's a pretty nice community. They have lots of businesses. There are quite a few people that are extremely successful. Um, They have extremely nice homes. They have extremely nice cars. They have um, extraordinary businesses, um, large businesses that produce large amounts of money. Now, I don't know. I haven't really researched this place in Mexico, but I would imagine if you're able to uproot a whole community and move to another country with, you know, tens of people, hundreds of people, whatever, you must have some kind of um, uh, savvy in order to do that. And you must also have some kind of financial backing or financial foundation. And so, with that, I would have to say that in order to protect yourself in a country that is pretty much at this point um, out of control, meaning that the if somebody gets caught in America, if a cartel person or drug person gets caught in America, he's he's either dying or he's getting caught. He's not going to threaten somebody and then be let out. And so that's a pretty daunting feeling to live in a country where at any moment you something like that can happen and you really essentially have nobody to protect you. And so I'll say that this there's some things missing in the story that I don't understand, and I don't see how why women would be driving with children in the middle of the night. I know women in America don't like to drive at night with children, even on the safest of roads. So that seems odd. Um, what also seems odd is they say it's a case of mistaken identity. However, one of the cars was set on fire. That seems odd. Also, the pictures of the people within the car, I'm sorry, the victims in the cars were, I didn't see all the victims, but the victims that I did see primarily looked pretty uh, Mexican. I'll say that. And not saying that um, there Mexican people look alike for the most part. Uh, there is a general kind of appearance from my experience living in Los Angeles. These people looked pretty Caucasian, if you will. Now there are some Caucasian Mexican people. I know some myself. Some are my friends. Um, so I suppose that if there's a car filled with blonde kids and blonde women, that they could have been Mexican, and I suppose that there could have been some sort of mistaken identity. Um, the other thing that doesn't make sense to me is it was three cars, so I guess cartel members and drug members. So how do you target these particular vehicles? So it's three vehicles. It's not one vehicle. So it's not like the guy's driving in a a white Cadillac Escalade, late model 2017, 18, 19, with gold rims or whatever. And you know that car, you're looking for that car. Okay. And so when the car shows up, you could, if a car shows up like that, you could make a mistake with that one car. But this was three cars. So that would mean that the description of the three cars should meet the description that was given to the people who ambushed them. So that means that it would have to be three white Cadillac Escalades fitting the description that was given to the people that ambushed these people. So I just don't get it, and I could be completely wrong. I don't know, but it seems very, very strange. It's a very sad story, despite the fact that it seems strange to me. I just want all the details. I want to know how. Well, I want to know the details. I'm curious about those details. So it's sad, and unfortunately, most if not all of the victims of this were probably completely innocent of any wrongdoing or any um, affiliation with anything bad, and it's sad that this even took place, and it should not be happening. So those are my thoughts on that. I'm going to continue to follow up on this to see what kind of other information comes out. And the reason why I'm always skeptical about news and information, obviously, it's because it's controlled by a small number of people that have a certain interest. And if you take a look at my other video about Epstein, you'll understand why I say that. And an example of that would be what happened with the MLB player and the pitcher who died of opiate overdose. And I don't I don't remember his name. Oh, his name was Tyler Skaggs. So originally, when that story came out, they basically said that they had no idea why he died, and then later on, we found out. Actually, I think even in the beginning, the person who put out the original article, or they put out an article that essentially said that they were told to not put out the truth. And so then later on, the truth comes out. So uh, since we have such short attention spans now, because everybody's so connected to social media and God knows what else, binging, and I'm not saying I'm not a person who does that too, but a story comes out, people talk about it for 1 or 2 days. It used to be a week. Now it's 1 or 2 days, 1 or 2 hours, and then all of a sudden it's on to the next thing. And there are some significant stories happening in our lives, and I'm not saying that we need to try to nail down all the information on every story, but we should start paying attention to the things that don't make sense. People should start asking questions because we're not actually getting all the information that we should be getting. Okay, on a lighter note, there's a kid in Minnesota who was taking Krispy Kreme donuts. Actually, not taking them. He was driving to Iowa, I think 250 miles, 4 hours every weekend or once a week, picking up 100 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts and bringing them back to some town in Minnesota and selling them. And so eventually it became so lucrative and profitable for him that he started a Facebook profile. I forget the name of the Facebook profile. And he started taking orders via the profile. So Krispy Kreme calls Mr. Gonzalez and tells him to cease and desist, stop selling our donuts. So their statement was, we didn't want Mr. Gonzalez selling our donuts because uh, we were a little bit wary about. I mean, I should read exactly what they said, but they were worried about the quality in which um, he was distributing to his customers. So first of all, when I first read this, that they said they essentially told him to stop selling the donuts, I thought, wow, what a bad PR move. It's so sad. I mean, this is such a positive story for them. People want their donuts. A guy drives 250 miles. They're going to take donuts that are 4 hours old, and they're purchasing them for almost double the price, even if there was poor quality. The point is they cannot get the donuts, but they would buy a donuts for double the price. Donuts for double the price that are 4 hours old or older. It's a win-win situation, and so the fact that they would tell this guy to stop doing this is so silly. I mean, so anyway. To make a long story short, they must have spoken to a smart marketer or a smart PR person who said, "What the hell are you guys doing? Like, this is the greatest story ever. People want our donuts so much that they're willing to buy them from a guy out of the back of his car who drove them 4 hours across um, a, a state line from one state to the other. What is the problem with this?" So anyway, so they got smart enough and realized that it would be better to let Mr. Gonzalez actually sell the donuts, and they're going to make him the first, I think, what they call an independent partner or seller or independent operator. Now that is a great story, and kudos to I don't remember his first name, but Mr. Gonzalez for doing this. And quite frankly, this could make this guy. Apparently, he was using the money to pay for. So he's a soccer coach, and he was using the money to pay for his education at maybe the University of Minnesota, or Metropolitan State University in St. Paul. So great story, and another instance of well, some eventually a company getting smart because such a bad PR move, and I like the it's to me the person who decided to make the call to tell the guy to stop selling the donuts in the first place was silly. But the people who wrote this particular article, I think CNN reached out to him. I think it was CNN. I don't want to. Yeah, I think the CNN reached out to Mr. Gonzalez, which they Krispy Kreme probably told him not to talk to any news outlets until they got a handle on this story. Such a silly idea to stop the guy from selling donuts. As I'm reading this, it seems like a woman in Ohio was found dead, killed by her own Great Danes. Okay, well, I didn't want to turn the Krispy Kreme donut into a a bad story. So to me, it just seems so silly. So another positive note is new study reveals drinking coffee regularly can lead to a super coveted health benefit. And essentially, what the benefit is that they believe that it helps influence DNA integrity and also um, various other things. But that's the one of the things is DNA integrity and also gut biome. So there are two particular types of bacteria for your that in your gut that promote and that actually uh, reduce inflammation among other things. And so they think that drinking coffee actually helps with that. They did a study with I can't remember how many people there were, but there were quite a few people, and they had some drink coffee 82.9 milligrams a day. That was the high intake group. That and actually it was at least 82.9 milligrams a day, and the other group had to drink less than that. And I wish I could read the name of this particular bacteria, but there would probably be so many memes from that if ever this became something of interest. So I won't. But anyway, there are two or three different types of bacteria that this promotes in the belly, and they do things such as help you process or regulate process glucose better, which will help you regulate your insulin, and fat transporters, and also help with some healthy healthy colons. So maybe we keep drinking coffee. I drink it every day, just as a routine, though. It's not really something I don't think that I have to drink it. So Aaron Sorkin, who wrote, I think he wrote the Social Media Network or the Social Network, which was a great movie if you haven't seen it. He wrote a letter to Mark Zuckerberg about it's basically an open letter to Mark Zuckerberg about Facebook and the fact that Zuckerberg is claiming to be protecting free speech by allowing all sorts of craziness in terms of ads and things on Facebook. And so the gist of the letter is that he's not protecting free speech, and he didn't really go into why he felt like Zuckerberg was allowing nonsense to be on Facebook. And I'm a little bit torn by this because it's kind of like taxes. Is as soon as you allow one tax to come in, um, there's going to be more taxes added, or that tax is never going away, I guess is a better way to say it. And as soon as you start limiting one form of speech, then it just allows for more greater infringement on other forms of speech. I'm going to check this. Hold on one second. So, but I understand what he's saying, because he referenced a particular ad on Facebook that says that Joe Biden was given $1 billion by the Ukrainian. Was it Ukrainian? What's the whole Trump thing? I read so many stories, I forget which actual place it is. Joe Biden was given $1 billion with a B, $1 billion by the president of Ukraine. Is it Ukraine? Hold on. Yes. Actually, no. No, actually, I have that backwards. It says right now on your website is an ad claiming that Joe Biden gave the Ukrainian Attorney General $1 billion not to investigate his son. And then he says every square inch of that is a lie, and it's under your logo. That's not defending free speech, Mark. It's assaulting truth. And I think that's true. I mean, unless we can prove that he was given $1 billion. Well, that's all for today. I gotta end this. I have a few other segments to do. We'll do those tomorrow. Thanks, and we are out of here.